The freight ship drifted toward the massive space station like a tired bird finding its nest. Inside the cockpit, checked the navigation screens one last time. Her fingers moved across the controls with practiced ease. She had made this trip dozens of times before. The Meridian Nexus station was old, huge, and always busy. Ships from hundreds of different worlds came here to trade. "Docking Bay 7 is clear," her brother said from the co-pilot seat. He was younger by 3 years and handled all the technical work. "They're asking about our cargo again." Sighed, "Tell them it's the same minerals we always bring. Rare earth elements from the Terran colonies, nothing special." The station grew larger in the viewport. It looked like a giant wheel spinning slowly in space. Lights covered its surface like a city at night. Had always liked coming here. Different species walking around, strange foods, interesting conversations. Humans were still new to this part of space. Most aliens treated them like curious children, which annoyed her, but at least they were friendly. The ship shuddered as the docking clamps grabbed hold, powered down the engines and stretched. 10 hours in the pilot's seat made her back ache. Was already gathering the cargo manifests and checking their identification papers. "Ready?" he asked. "Always am," replied. They walked down the cargo ramp into the station. The air smelled like metal and something sweet she could never identify. The docking bay was crowded with workers and other pilots. A small floating drone approached them, scanning their identification badges with a blue light. "Proceed to Customs Station 4, the drone said in a flat voice. Customs was always tedious but usually quick. They joined a short line behind a group of insect-like traders carrying sealed containers. Ahead of them stood the customs officer, unnamed, recognized him from previous trips. He was tall, maybe 8 feet, with a body that looked like it was made of purple crystal. They were proud and often rude to species they considered inferior. Barely looked at the insect traders before waving them through. Went and stepped forward, his crystalline face tilted down at them with obvious disdain. "Humans," he said, making the word sound like an insult. "Cargo manifest." Handed over the data pad. His long fingers tapped at it, his expression bored. Then he paused, his eyes, which glowed with an inner light, narrowed. "These readings are inconsistent," he said. "They're the same minerals we always transport," said calmly. "You've cleared this cargo before." "I decide what gets cleared," snapped. He reached for a device mounted on the customs station. It was a molecular scanner, standard equipment for checking cargo composition. "I will verify personally." Shrugged, "Go ahead." Activated the scanner and pointed it at their cargo containers stacked behind them. The device hummed softly, projecting a grid of light over the containers. Numbers and symbols appeared on a screen. Everything looked normal, then swung the scanner toward herself. The device made a strange sound, higher and sharper than before. The light flickered, frowned, and adjusted the settings. The sound grew louder. Warning lights began flashing on the scanner's display. Stepped back, confusion crossing his crystalline features. Then the scanner changed. Instead of the soft analysis beam, it projected something completely different. A brilliant blue beam shot out, thick as arm, moving fast. The beam was solid, dense with energy. People nearby gasped and scattered. This was a restraint beam, a weapon protocol that should never activate during a simple cargo scan. The beam struck towards chest. In less than a second, it should have frozen her in complete stasis. This technology was used on the galaxy's most dangerous criminals. Nothing organic could resist it. The beam would lock every molecule in place, leaving the target conscious but completely immobile. But did not freeze. Her hand came up almost lazily, as if she were brushing away an annoying insect. Her finger flicked once, a casual motion that took no effort at all. The massive restraint beam split perfectly down the middle. The two halves curved around her body like water flowing around a stone. They struck the walls behind her and dissipated into harmless sparkles of light. The entire customs area went silent. Every being in the space stood frozen, but not from any weapon. They were frozen from shock. Looked at her hand, then at, "Your scanner is broken," she said quietly. Stumbled backward. His crystalline body was shaking. His mouth opened and closed several times before any sound came out. "Impossible," he whispered. "That's impossible." Other customs officers rushed over. Security alarms began wailing throughout the station. Armed guards appeared from side corridors, weapons ready. Moved closer to his sister, his face pale. "What did you just do?" he asked. "I don't know," she admitted. "It felt like the beam was going to hit me, so I just moved it." A guard captain approached, a stocky being with 4 arms and gray skin. His species was called, known for being reasonable and calm. He looked at the scorch marks on the walls where the beam had dissipated, then at the still trembling. "What happened here?" the captain asked. Pointed at with a shaking finger. She manipulated the restraint beam. She split it with her bare hand. That technology requires quantum-level processing. No organic being can do that. No one. Not in 3,000 years of recorded galactic history. The captain studied carefully. "Is this true?" Nodded slowly. "The beam came at me. I moved it away. I didn't really think about it." "You didn't think about it," the captain repeated. He spoke into a communication device on his wrist. "I need a science team to custom Station 4 immediately, and contact the Galactic Council. Tell them we have a situation." More guards surrounded, and they were not rough, but they were firm. The captain gestured for them to follow him. "You're being detained, not as criminals, but as anomalies that require investigation." "We haven't done anything wrong," protested. "I know," the captain said. He actually sounded sympathetic. "But what your sister just did should not be possible. The council will want answers. We all will." As they were led away, caught glimpses of other beings in the customs area. They were all staring at her. Some looked curious. Many looked afraid. A few looked hungry, like they had just seen something valuable. In a private holding room, the captain left them with 2 guards. The room was comfortable enough, with seats and water. Not a cell, but definitely not freedom. Sat down heavily. "This is bad, isn't it?" "Maybe," said. She looked at her hand again, the one that had split the beam. "Can you do things like that? Move things without touching them?" He hesitated. "Sometimes, small things. I thought everyone could do a little bit, like I can feel electrical currents sometimes. Redirect them if I focus hard enough. Can't you?" "Yeah," said. "I never told anyone because I thought it was normal, just something humans could do." "What if it's not normal?" asked quietly. "What if we can do something no other species can do?" Sat beside him. Through the room's small window, she could see the station continuing its busy operations. Ships coming and going. Thousands of beings from hundreds of worlds, all living together in this small pocket of space. Humans were the newcomers here, barely 200 years into galactic society. They were considered weak, technologically behind, politically unimportant. That was about to change, and was not sure if that was a good thing. The transport ship that took and from the station was not a prison vessel, but it felt close enough. They sat in a passenger compartment with reinforced walls and guards posted outside. Through the window, watched stars blur past as they traveled through faster-than-light space. They had been traveling for 2 days now. "Where are they taking us?" asked for the 10th time. "Threshold Prime," reminded him. "A council research facility. That's all they've told us." A door slid open, and a new figure entered. He was long and serpentine, his body covered in dark green scales that shimmered under the lights. His species was called, known throughout the galaxy for their scientific minds and patient nature. He wore the silver badge of a council investigator. "I am," he said, his voice soft and precise. "I have been assigned to understand what happened at Meridian Nexus." He coiled his lower body beneath him and gestured to the seats. "Please sit. I am not your enemy. I am simply curious. And sat. There was something about's manner that put them at ease despite the circumstances. He did not seem afraid or hostile, just genuinely interested. Tell me what you experienced when the restraint beam activated, said. Described it again, trying to remember every detail. It happened fast. The beam came toward me and I knew it would hurt. My hand moved on its own like swatting a bug. I flicked my finger and the beam split. That's all. You did not think about it. No, it was instinct. His eyes, large and golden, blinked slowly. Remarkable, and you, can you do similar things? Shifted uncomfortably. Small things. I can feel electricity moving through wires. Sometimes I can make it go a different direction if I focus. I can sense magnetic fields too, like I know which way is north without looking. Have you always been able to do this? Since I was a teenager, I think. I thought it was normal. Everyone feels electricity, right? No, said gently, they do not. Most species require technology to sense such things. You can do it with your mind alone. He made a note on a data pad. Are there others, other humans with these abilities? And looked at each other. We don't know, admitted. We never talked about it with anyone. Nodded. We have contacted your government. An ambassador is coming to meet us at Threshold Prime. Perhaps she will have answers. Threshold Prime was a cold planet with 3 moons. The research facility sat on a plateau surrounded by ice fields. It was a massive complex, all white buildings and silver domes. The transport landed in an underground bay. More guards waited, along with scientists of various species, all watching and with intense interest. A human woman approached them, wearing the formal robes of an ambassador. She was older, maybe 50, with sharp eyes and a careful expression. I'm ambassador, she said. I'm sorry this happened to you both, but I need you to understand something important. This situation is bigger than you realize. They were taken to a conference room. Joined them, along with several other investigators and scientists. Ambassador stood at the head of the table, her hands clasped behind her back. What you did at Meridian Nexus has created a crisis, began. The galactic community is demanding answers. They want to know what humans are capable of. They want to know if we're a threat. She paused. And I have to tell them the truth. What truth? Asked. Took a deep breath. About 60 years ago, something changed in human development. Children started being born with unusual abilities. They could sense things they shouldn't be able to sense, move small objects without touching them. Some could even manipulate basic forces like gravity and electromagnetism. Leaned forward, how many? About 3% of the current human population, roughly 600 million people. The expression was grim. We've kept it secret. We were afraid of how the galaxy would react. Humans are newcomers here. We're not powerful. We don't have advanced technology compared to most species. If anyone knew we had these abilities, we feared they would see us as a threat and act against us. But why us? Asked. Why can humans do this when no other species can? We don't know, admitted. Our scientists have been studying it for decades. The abilities started appearing after we began faster-than-light travel. Some think the FTL process triggered something in human genetics. Others think it was always there, dormant, waiting for something to activate it. Spoke up. This is unprecedented. In all recorded galactic history, no species has demonstrated the ability to manipulate fundamental forces through biological means alone. Technology can do it, yes. Cybernetic implants can do it, but organic beings, never. What do you mean by fundamental forces? Asked. Gravity, electromagnetism, the nuclear forces that hold atoms together, gestured to. What you did to that restraint beam required manipulating electromagnetic energy at a quantum level. The beam was a coherent energy structure. You deconstructed it and redirected it in microseconds. The calculations alone should take a computer hours. You did it by instinct. The room fell silent. stared at her hands. She had never thought of herself as special. She was just a freight pilot trying to make a living. Now she was being told she could do things that should be impossible. "What happens now?" she asked quietly. Looked uncomfortable. "The news is spreading. Various factions are reacting differently. The Dominion wants all humans quarantined. They're saying we're too dangerous to interact with other species. The collective sees economic opportunity and wants to hire human manipulators for industrial work. The Warden Alliance wants to recruit you for their military. Academic institutions want to study you." "Study us like lab animals," said angrily. "Some would, yes," said. "But there are also species who see this as an opportunity for cooperation. The Council wants proof of what humans can do. They want to understand the limits of these abilities." "And if we refuse?" asked. Answered this time. "Then the fearful voices will grow louder. They will say humans are hiding something dangerous. They will push for sanctions, restrictions, possibly worse." His tone was sympathetic. "I understand this is unfair. You did nothing wrong, but the galaxy operates on fear as much as reason. Unknown capabilities are frightening." Ambassador moved to sit across from him. "I need to ask something difficult of you. The Council is proposing a series of tests. They want to document what human manipulators can do in controlled conditions. If we refuse, we look like we're hiding something. If we agree, we give them information that could be used against us later. But if we show them what we can do," said slowly, "maybe they'll be less afraid. Maybe they'll see we're not monsters." "Maybe," said, "or maybe they'll be more afraid. That's the risk." Looked at his sister. "What do you think?" Thought about the customs area, about his terrified face, about all those beings staring at her with fear in their eyes. She thought about the 600 million humans who could do what she could do. If they stayed hidden, they would always be suspected. If they revealed themselves, they might face persecution. "We do the tests," said, "but on our terms. We show them what we can do, but we also show them who we are. We're not threats. We're just people who happen to have unusual abilities." Smiled slightly. "That's optimistic." "Maybe," said, "but it's better than hiding forever." Over the next weeks, more human manipulators arrived at Threshold Prime. There was a former engineer who could redirect electrical currents through his will alone. Young and nervous, could create small gravity wells that pulled objects toward specific points. A combat pilot could compress air molecules into temporary solid shields. They were 12 in total, all volunteers, all knowing the risks. They trained together in the facility's testing grounds, learning to control abilities they had kept hidden their whole lives. Found she could do more than split beams. She could sense energy patterns, redirect force vectors, even manipulate the bonds between molecules if she concentrated hard enough. But the more she learned, the more questions arose. How could a human mind interface with physical laws? What was the mechanism? Every test raised more mysteries. And all the while, the galaxy watched and waited, afraid of what these humans might become. The hollow sphere was the most impressive structure had ever seen. It surrounded a neutron star, a massive shell built by an ancient civilization millions of years ago. The Council used it now for the most dangerous scientific experiments. It was also the perfect place to test beings who could manipulate fundamental forces of nature. The transport ship carrying and the 11 other human volunteers approached a docking port on the sphere's surface. Through the viewports, could see dozens of ships already anchored there. Representatives from hundreds of species had come to watch the tests. Some were genuinely curious. Others were looking for weaknesses to exploit. Many were simply terrified and wanted to know if humans could be controlled. "Big audience," said quietly. He stood beside, looking out at the assembled fleet. He was older than her by 10 years, calm and methodical. "They're treating this like a show." "That's exactly what it is," said from behind them. The pilot was lean and intense, always ready for a fight. "They want to see if we're dangerous, so we'll show them what we can do." The youngest at 19 looked nervous. What if we fail? What if we can't do what they expect? Turn to face the group. Then we fail honestly. We're not here to pretend to be something we're not. We're here to show the truth. They disembarked into a massive testing arena. The space was enormous, big enough to hold a small city. Observation platforms lined the walls high above, filled with spectators. Cameras floated everywhere, recording from every angle. This would be broadcast live across the galaxy. Met them in the center of the arena. The investigator looked uncomfortable. "I want you to know that I argued against making this public," he said. "This should be scientific research, not entertainment. But the council overruled me. Too many species demanded transparency." "It's fine," said, "let them watch." A massive holographic display appeared in the air above them, visible to everyone in the arena and everyone watching remotely. It showed the testing schedule: energy resistance, force projection, dimensional awareness, complex manipulation, each test designed to push human abilities to their limits. An official appeared on the display. High Examiner, one of the highest-ranking members of the Dominion. His crystalline face was cold and expressionless. "We will establish the capabilities and limitations of human manipulators," he announced. "All tests are monitored by independent observers. Let us begin." The first test was energy resistance. One by one, each human stood in a designated area while various weapons fired at them. Plasma bolts, laser beams, kinetic projectiles, sonic waves. The weapons started weak and gradually increased in power. Went first. He stood calmly as energy weapons fired. His hand moved slightly, redirecting the beams away from his body. A plasma bolt came next. He could not redirect plasma easily, so he created an electromagnetic field that dispersed it before impact. When a kinetic projectile fired, he simply stepped aside, but noticed he had sensed it coming before the weapon even fired. Each human demonstrated different capabilities. Created gravity wells that pulled projectiles off course. Hardened the air in front of him into temporary shields. Found she could sense the energy building in weapons before they fired and prepare her defenses accordingly. They all passed the first test, though some were exhausted afterward. The observers muttered among themselves. Some seemed impressed, others seemed more worried than before. The second test was force projection. Move objects at a distance without touching them. Simple in concept, difficult in execution. They were given various objects of increasing mass and density. Move them, stop them, redirect them. Focused on a steel cube weighing 500 pounds. She could not lift it with muscles, but she could manipulate the gravitational field around it. She visualized the cube becoming lighter, the force of gravity lessening. The cube shuddered, then rose slowly into the air. Sweat formed on her forehead. It took concentration, but she could do it. Other humans showed different approaches. Created magnetic fields to move metal objects. Used localized gravity wells, pulling objects toward points she defined. A man named could vibrate molecules so rapidly that objects moved from the kinetic energy. The third test was dimensional awareness. Detect objects through solid barriers. Find hidden targets. Sense energy signatures through walls and floors. This one was harder. Most humans could only sense things within a few meters. Was best at this, detecting objects up to 30 meters away through solid steel walls. Then came the fourth test, complex manipulation. This was what everyone had really come to see. Could humans handle complicated energy structures? Could they manipulate multiple forces simultaneously? They were shown various scenarios. Split a compound energy beam into components. Redirect multiple projectiles at once. Create stable energy fields while under attack. These tests required focus, skill, and instinct working together. Stepped forward for her turn. The test was simple in description but nearly impossible in execution. A weapon would fire 3 different types of energy at her simultaneously. plasma, laser, and electromagnetic pulse. She had to defend against all three using different methods at the same time. The weapon fired. Its perception seemed to slow down. She could see the three beams coming, each with different properties. The laser she redirected with a focused electromagnetic field. The plasma she dispersed by disrupting its magnetic containment. The electromagnetic pulse she absorbed and grounded harmlessly through her body. It took less than 2 seconds. The observation platforms erupted in noise. Some species cheered. Others made sounds of alarm. High Examiner's voice cut through the noise. Impressive, but we must test upper limits. Increase power by factor of 10. His voice came over the communication system. That is beyond the agreed parameters. That power level could be lethal. We need to know the limits, said coldly. Proceed. The weapon powered up again, could feel the energy building. This was going to hurt. The beams fired much stronger now, managed to deflect them, but the effort drove her to her knees. Her vision blurred. She heard shouting her name from the sidelines. Again ordered, factor of 20. This is excessive, protested. This is necessary, replied. Stood on shaking legs. She knew what was doing. He was trying to find her breaking point, maybe trying to break her completely. She prepared herself as the weapon charged for a third time. But the weapon did not fire at her. It swiveled toward who stood exhausted from her own tests. The young woman looked up in confusion as the overcharged weapon aimed directly at her. Wait began. The weapon fired, not the compound beam, something worse. A singularity lance, a weapon that created microscopic black holes. It had been banned by galactic law for centuries because it was too dangerous, too destructive. The weapon should not even exist anymore. The singularity formed in the air, a point of absolute darkness moving toward. If it touched her, she would be pulled into the gravity well and compressed to nothing. She stood frozen in terror. Moved without thinking. She reached out with her mind toward the singularity. It was not energy she could redirect. It was warped space itself, gravity so intense that not even light could escape. Touching it directly would kill her too. So she did something else, something she had never tried before. She compressed the singularity. She folded the warped space-time in on itself, making the black holes smaller and smaller. The gravitational forces fought her, trying to expand, trying to consume, pushed harder. Her nose began to bleed. Her vision went dark around the edges, but she kept compressing. The singularity collapsed. The warped space-time unwound itself and released its energy as harmless radiation. The black hole simply ceased to exist. Fell to the ground unconscious. When she woke, she was in a medical facility, sat beside her bed, his face a mix of relief and anger. You collapsed the singularity, he said. The whole galaxy saw it. You a weapon that has killed billions. His head throbbed. She's fine, terrified but fine. Hands clenched into fists. Has been arrested. Turns out the singularity lance was illegal and unauthorized. He smuggled it in somehow. Why would he do that? To test you, or maybe to kill you, we're not sure yet. Leaned forward. You collapsed a black hole with your mind. Do you understand what that means? The whole galaxy just watched a human manipulate space-time itself. Some species are calling you a hero. Others are saying humans are too dangerous to exist. Closed her eyes. She had wanted to show the galaxy that humans were not threats. Instead, she had demonstrated power that frightened even her. She had saved, yes, but she had also proven that humans could do things that no weapon, no technology, no species could defend against. Ambassador visited later that day. The tests are over, she said. The council has seen enough. Now comes the hard part. What's that? Asked. Deciding what to do about humanity. The galaxy split into factions within days. Watched the news broadcasts from Earth, still recovering from the singularity collapse. Every channel showed the same footage over and over. her hand reaching toward the black hole, the impossible compression, the weapon that could destroy planets simply ceasing to exist. Some called it a miracle, others called it proof that humans needed to be controlled. The Unity Accord formed first. It was a coalition of younger species, academic institutions, and progressive governments. They sent a message to Earth proposing partnership and cooperation. Humanity represents the next step in galactic evolution, their statement read. We should learn together, not fear each other. The Preservation Coalition formed in response. Led by the Dominion and other established powers, they demanded restrictions. All human manipulators should be registered in a galactic database. Their movements should be monitored. They should be forbidden from military service or positions of power. We cannot allow beings who can manipulate fundamental forces to operate without oversight, their spokesperson declared. On Earth, humanity faced its own crisis. For 2 generations, manipulators had lived in secret, hiding their abilities from even their own kind. Now the whole world knew. Some humans celebrated, others panicked. Politicians argued about what this meant for Earth's place in the galaxy. Returned to Earth after 3 weeks in the medical facility. She landed at a spaceport in Seoul, where Ambassador met her. The city looked the same as always, but felt different. Everyone who looked at her knew what she could do. Some people smiled and waved. Others stepped away, nervous. "You're famous," said as they rode in a transport vehicle toward the government complex. Or infamous, depending on who you ask. The council wants you to attend a hearing. To answer for what I did. To explain what humanity is, what we want, what we're willing to accept, glanced at her. You've become the face of human manipulators, whether you wanted it or not. The government complex was busy with activity, was taken to a conference room where other important humans had gathered. There was a representative from the Global Council and a manipulator herself. She was in her 40s, confident and direct. Beside her sat a strategic advisor who specialized in galactic politics. He was not a manipulator but had spent years studying alien cultures. "The situation is worse than we thought," began without preamble. "The Preservation Coalition is growing stronger every day. They're pressuring neutral species to join them. If this continues, we could face economic sanctions or worse." "What's worse than sanctions?" asked. He had come to Earth with and sat beside her now. "Military action," said quietly. "Some species are afraid enough to consider it. They think humans are the next existential threat to galactic civilization." Frowned. "That's insane. We haven't attacked anyone. We saved from an illegal weapon. How does that make us threats?" "Because power is frightening," explained. "Think about it from their perspective. For thousands of years, the galaxy has operated on certain rules. Technology determines strength. Resources determine wealth. Suddenly, humans appear who can ignore those rules. You can manipulate energy without technology. You can defend against weapons that should be unstoppable. That breaks the established order." "So what do we do?" asked. "Hide our abilities again, pretend we're weak?" "Some suggest that," said. "Make concessions, accept monitoring, prove we're not threats by giving up our autonomy." "I disagree," said firmly. "If we show weakness, they'll push harder. We should embrace our abilities openly, show strength, make it clear that humans will not be controlled." The argument went back and forth for hours, listened but said little. She understood both sides. Showing strength might deter aggression, but it could also provoke it. Showing weakness might ease fears, but it could also invite exploitation. Had been quiet too, but now he spoke up. "I found something in the Galactic Archives," he said. He projected a holographic display showing ancient text and images. "There were others like us, millions of years ago." Everyone leaned forward to look. The text was in a dead language, but translation software rendered it readable. It described a species called the Architects. They could shape reality through thought alone. They built wonders. They created worlds. And then they vanished. "The Architects," said slowly. I've heard stories about them, myths mostly. No one knows if they were real." "They were real," said, "and their disappearance matches a galactic catastrophe 15 million years ago, something that reset civilization across hundreds of systems simultaneously." He highlighted another passage. "This text describes the architects as tyrants who nearly destroyed all life. The surviving species made a pact. Never again would they allow such beings to exist." The room went cold, stared at the text. "You're saying the no about this. They think we're like the architects." "I think some of them do," said, "which explains why they're so desperate to control us." A communication came through then. His face appeared on a screen. The investigator looked distressed. "I need to speak with you immediately, in private." Took the call in a separate room with only present. His image flickered slightly with the long-distance transmission. "High Examiner has confessed," said without preamble. "His attack on was not a personal action. He was ordered to do it by a group called the Concordance. They are a shadow faction within multiple galactic governments dedicated to preventing another architect scenario." "What does that mean?" asked. "It means they have been planning to eliminate human manipulators before you become too numerous to stop. The Singularity Lance was a test. If it had killed and you could not stop it, they would have known humans could be defeated. But you did stop it." Paused. "Now they know they cannot use conventional weapons against you, which means they will try something else." Felt ice in her stomach. "Like what?" "I do not know, but the Concordance has resources across hundreds of worlds. They have been preparing for this for centuries." Looked directly at her. "You need to be ready. An attack is coming." The attack came 3 weeks later at the colony of Nu. It was a human settlement on the edge of explored space, home to 40,000 people. Was there with and 8 other manipulators. They had been training colonists in basic defense techniques, teaching people how to sense danger and protect themselves. The attack started without warning. Automated warships dropped out of faster-than-light space and began firing on the colony. They were not trying to conquer, they were trying to destroy. Plasma bombs fell on residential areas. Kinetic strikes hit industrial centers. Within minutes, hundreds of people were dead. Rushed to the Defense Command Center. Alarms screamed everywhere. Civilians ran for shelters. The colony's defense guns fired back, but the warships had superior shields. Nothing was getting through. "We need to evacuate," the colony director shouted. "Get people to the transport ships." But the warships were targeting the spaceport too. Evacuation ships were destroyed as they tried to launch. Felt rage building inside her. These were innocent people, families, children. The Concordance did not care. "Manipulators with me," she said into the communication network. "We're going to stop this." They gathered on the colony's outer perimeter. 12 humans against 20 warships. The odds were impossible, but they had no choice. Created air shields over evacuation routes. Overloaded the warship's targeting systems by flooding them with electromagnetic pulses. Created gravity wells that pulled missiles off course. But it was not enough. The warships kept coming. Felt something new in the air then. A strange tingling sensation. The other manipulators felt it too. "Null fields," said through gritted teeth. "They're generating quantum interference. It's disrupting our abilities." Tried to sense the warship's energy signatures but found her perception clouded. The null fields were working. She could still use her abilities, but they were weaker, harder to control. And the warships knew it. They pressed the attack harder. Then help arrived. A small fleet dropped into the system. Ships from the Unity Accord come to assist. They engaged the automated warships, giving the colony breathing room. But the enemy had more ships waiting. This was going to be a real battle. Made a decision. She reached out with her mind not to the warships but to the other manipulators. She felt electrical awareness, gravitational sensitivity, kinetic precision. She touched each of their minds gently, asking permission. One by one, they opened themselves to her. Their abilities linked together, creating a network of consciousness. 12 minds thinking as one. 12 different abilities working in perfect coordination. The combined power was staggering. Could feel everything. Every energy signature in the entire star system. Every electromagnetic field. Every gravitational fluctuation. The null fields were still there, but the combined strength of 12 manipulators pushed through the interference. Together, they generated a pulse. Pure, focused energy radiating outward from the colony. It washed over the warships like a wave. Every null field generator shut down simultaneously. Every weapon system went offline. Every power core suspended in perfect stasis. The warships drifted, dead in space. Their crews were alive but helpless, and the others had not destroyed them. They had simply stopped them, disabled every hostile system in the entire battle zone in one coordinated action. The Unity Accord ships moved in to secure the disabled warships. The battle was over. Nu had survived, though with heavy damage and terrible losses. Collapsed to her knees, exhausted. The other manipulators did the same. They had won, but barely, and everyone knew this was just the beginning. The footage from Nu changed everything. Broadcasts showed the automated warships attacking a peaceful colony. They showed civilians dying. They showed the Concordance's ruthless attempt at genocide. But they also showed something else. They showed 12 humans working together to stop an entire fleet without destroying a single ship. Public opinion across the galaxy shifted overnight. Species that had been neutral suddenly spoke out against the Concordance. Even some members of the Preservation Coalition began questioning their stance. Attacking a civilian population was beyond justification. The Concordance had crossed a line. Stood in the Galactic courtroom 3 months after the battle. It was not a trial for her. She was a witness, testifying about what had happened. The Concordance's agents were the ones on trial, though most of the organization's leadership remained hidden in shadows. "Tell us what you did when the attack began," the presiding judge asked. She was a member of the species, beings known for their strict adherence to law and fairness. Describe the battle calmly, the warships, the null fields, the decision to link minds with the other manipulators. "We could have destroyed those ships," she said clearly. "We had the power, but we chose to disable them instead. We chose to save the crews even though they were trying to kill us." "Why?" the judge asked. "Because we're not the monsters they think we are," said. "We're people. We value life, even the lives of our enemies." The courtroom was silent. Representatives from hundreds of species listened. Some looked convinced, others still looked afraid. Fear was not easy to overcome. After the testimony, Ambassador pulled aside. "The Council wants to meet with you, all of you, the manipulators who fought at Nu." "What for?" "To discuss the future, to find a way forward." The meeting took place in a secure facility on Threshold Prime, and the other manipulators were there. So was Ambassador, and from the galactic side came an elder, an ancient who had spent centuries studying lost civilizations. Elder was older than anyone had ever seen. His scales were pale with age, and his movements were slow and deliberate, but his eyes were sharp and clear. He looked at each human carefully before speaking. "I have studied the architects for 300 years, said. His voice was thin but steady. "I have examined every fragment of evidence that remains, and I have come to a conclusion about humanity." Everyone leaned forward. This was what they had all been wondering. Were humans related to the architects? Were they a threat to galactic civilization? "Humans are not architects," said, "but you are connected to them. I believe the architects, before they vanished, seeded genetic material across the galaxy. They were preparing for something, an evolution, a next step. Only humanity activated that potential, perhaps because of your unique evolutionary path, perhaps because of your exposure to faster-than-light travel. We may never know the exact trigger." "So we're some kind of experiment?" asked. "No," said. I believe you are the architect's gift to the galaxy, or perhaps their apology. They nearly destroyed everything. In the end, they chose transcendence over domination, and they left behind the means for others to follow if they could find the path. Spoke up. Are you saying other species could develop manipulation abilities? Possibly, said. The genetic seeds may exist in many species. They simply have not activated yet. Humanity is the first, but you may not be the last. The room erupted in discussion, looked worried. If we share this information, we give other species the ability to do what we do. They could use it against us. If we hide it, countered, we become exactly what they fear, a species hoarding power, keeping others beneath us. There's another option, Ambassador said. We share the knowledge, but we do it carefully, through a joint research program. Humanity and the Unity Accord working together. Any species that develops manipulation abilities gets the same protection and support that we're asking for. Nodded slowly. A mutual compact. Humanity shares its understanding in exchange for full acceptance into the galactic community, and we establish protocols for any future manipulators, regardless of species. Looked skeptical. That requires enormous trust that the galaxy won't weaponize this knowledge against us. Yes, said, it does, but what choice do we have? We can't hide anymore. We can't fight the entire galaxy. The only way forward is together. Sighed. You're asking us to gamble humanity's future on the hope that other species will be fair. I'm asking us to be the species we claim to be, said. We say we're not threats. We say we value cooperation. This is how we prove it. The debate continued for days. Other human leaders joined the discussion remotely. Arguments flew back and forth. Some wanted to keep the knowledge secret. Others wanted to share everything immediately. Compromises were proposed, rejected, refined. Finally, a proposal emerged. The Threshold Accords, named after the facility where they were negotiated. The terms were complex, but the core was simple. Humanity would share its understanding of manipulation through a joint research initiative supervised by the Unity Accord. In exchange, humanity would receive full membership in the Galactic Council with all the rights and protections that entailed. Any species that developed manipulation abilities would be protected from persecution and supported in learning control. The Accords went a vote in the Galactic Council. The debate was fierce. The Dominion opposed it, calling it too dangerous. Several smaller species agreed, but the Unity Accord held firm, and many neutral species were swayed by testimony and the footage from New. The vote passed by a narrow margin. The Threshold Accords became galactic law. The first joint research facility opened 6 months later, and were appointed as co-directors. Scientists from 14 different species worked there, studying the mechanisms of manipulation, searching for the genetic triggers, trying to understand how consciousness could interface with physical law. The concordance did not disappear. They went underground, waiting, planning. Some species still feared humanity. Some resented the new order. But the galaxy had changed, and there was no going back. Return to freight work. It seemed almost funny after everything that had happened. Saving the galaxy one day, hauling cargo the next. But she liked the simplicity. She liked being a pilot again instead of a symbol. Stayed as her co-pilot. They took a contract to transport scientific equipment to the new research station. As they approached, looked out at the ships docked there. Cruisers next to human transports. Research vessels beside cargo haulers. Species that had barely spoken to each other a year ago, now working side by side. The customs scan was routine until the scanner activated. Felt the familiar tingle of energy analysis. The officer monitoring the scan watched his instruments carefully. Then, deliberately, flicked her finger. The scanner beam split harmlessly around her, just like it had a year ago at Meridian Nexus. The officer flinched, then made a sound that might have been laughter, still showing off. Smiled, just making sure you remember. The whole galaxy remembers, the officer said. His tone was not hostile, almost respectful. Some of us are still getting used to it. So are we, said honestly. The officer waved them through. As their ship docked, sat back in the pilot's seat and thought about how far they had come. A year ago, humans were newcomers, insignificant, easy to dismiss. Now they were full members of the galactic community, not because of their strength, though that had played a role, but because they had shown restraint, because they had chosen cooperation over domination. The future was uncertain. The concordance was still out there. Other species might develop manipulation abilities and use them in ways humanity had not. New conflicts would arise, but for the first time in galactic history, the playing field had changed. Power was not just about technology or resources anymore. It was about will, creativity, and the courage to use strength responsibly. Joined her in the cockpit. What are you thinking about? How we got here, said. A custom scan gone wrong. A restraint beam I split without thinking. Everything that happened after. Regret any of it. Considered that. The fear, the battles, the responsibility, the weight of representing her entire species. It had been hard, terrifying at times, but it had also been necessary. No, she said finally. We did what we had to do, and we did it right. Outside the viewport, the research station glowed with light and activity. Inside, scientists from across the galaxy were working to understand humanity's gift. Some would use it for good. Others might try to exploit it. That was the risk of sharing knowledge, but it was also the price of trust. Humanity had been hiding for too long. Now they stood in the light for better or worse. They could be partners or enemies, teachers or students, but never again would they be insignificant. Flicked her finger one more time just because she could. The gesture that had started everything. A small motion that split a beam and changed the galaxy. She thought about the architects, long vanished but not forgotten. They had left behind a gift, and humanity had chosen to share it rather than hoard it. That choice would define the next chapter of galactic history, not the power to manipulate forces, but the wisdom to know when to use that power and when to show restraint. The scanner beeped, announcing docking clearance, and gathered their gear and prepared to disembark. Just 2 pilots making a delivery, 2 humans among billions, but also 2 people who had helped reshape the galaxy. The work was just beginning. Research would take decades. Trust would take generations to build fully. Some species would never accept humans as equals. The concordance would keep trying to turn back the clock. But the path was set. Humanity had made its choice. They would stand in the light, abilities revealed, vulnerabilities exposed, and trust that the galaxy was ready to grow beyond fear. Time would tell if that trust was warranted. But standing there in the docking bay, looking out at the impossible cooperation happening around them, felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. The galaxy was changing, and humanity, the species that could flick a finger and split reality itself, had chosen to be part of that change rather than rule over it. That was the real test, not whether humans could manipulate fundamental forces, but whether they could manipulate fear into trust, division into cooperation, and potential into peace. The answer, thought as she walked into the station, would be written over the next 1,000 years, and she was glad to be alive to see it begin.